गुरु प्यारी साध संगत जी फतेह परवान करनी जी वाहिगुरु जी का खालसा वाहिगुरु जी की फतेह. So thank you for allowing me back. Thank you for allowing me to have the opportunity to sit in Sangat, to sit in the presence of Dhan Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji, in the presence of the Guru Khalsa Panth, the Sangat. Today, there are two main areas that we're going to focus on. The first thing is the understanding of the Panch Jor. We hear a lot in Gurbani about the Panch Jor. So today we're going to look a little bit more into what they are and what impact they have on our life. And then I'd like to move on to dealing with specific issues, specific particular habits that we may want to change in ourselves, and trying to understand how we go about doing that. So I'm sure many of us have heard in Gurbani this idea about 5 habits that has been classed as negative or undesirable. And these have been given lots of different names in Gurbani. Gurbani has referred to them as 5 thieves, 5 sins, and even 5 warriors. So what are these? What are these panch? What are these panch jor? We say them quite often, very quickly. Quite often we say these in a way that they just roll off our tongue. But let's spend a little bit of time trying to understand what these panch jor are. Kaam means desires. Krodh means anger. Lobh is greed. Moh is attachment. And Hankar is pride or ego, self-importance. And although they've been called thieves, what all of these are really 5 states of mind. And the first 3 of them, the first 3 states of mind are all to do with wanting. So we'll go into what we mean by that. So Kaam is a desire. I want something. Krodh is also a desire. Anger is also a desire, because a desire is that I want. And in anger, the desire is I want to be right. In anger, the desire is I want you to agree with me. In anger, the desire is I want my opinion to be somebody else's opinion. So even though we call it anger, it's actually a desire. And lobh is also a desire. Greed is also I want something. So we have to understand that desire is a really big part of this panch jor. And what do we want in life? What are the things that we crave? You can only want something that you have none of or you have very little of. So in order to desire something, the first thing is you have to understand that the desire comes from the fact that you think that you don't have it already, or that you might have very little of it. You can't want something that you already have. We don't want our arms, we don't want our legs, because we already have them. So we always want something that someone else has, or that is out of our reach. So the first thing to understand is what is the need for desire? Where does this want come from? The want comes from an assumption that we don't have. You might even have something and you can say, I don't want it anymore, but I still want it in the future. You may want something that you have right now and say, I'm happy with what I have right now, but I want to keep having it. So that's also another desire, another want. So there's always this feeling that you don't have enough. There's always some sort of lacking feeling inside of us. So this wanting is constantly leaving us with an emptiness inside. When you say that I don't want, what you're actually saying is I'm missing something right now. And that leaves you with a feeling of emptiness, that leaves you with a feeling of being unfulfilled. And the truth is that we all walk around all day with some feeling that we're not complete. That there is some feeling of being unfulfilled, that there's an emptiness inside of us. And what we don't realize is every morning when we wake up and we start our day trying to fill that emptiness in some way or another. So what are the types of things that we fill our day with? You wake up in the morning, the first thing you might think of, I need some food. So you're already starting with some emptiness. Then you think, I need to go to work. Why? Because I don't have enough money. Or I need to keep the money coming in. Or I need to get my children ready for school. So there's always an unresolved feeling from the moment that you wake up. And we spend our whole day constantly trying to fill this. But what we don't realize is there has never been a day that we feel that all of our desires have been filled. We've never woken up one morning, done a lot of work, and by the end of the day said, actually, I done it. I filled all of my desires. We don't do that. We don't realize that we've never filled those desires, but yet we wake up the next morning and we try again. So no point do we look backwards and say, this thing that I'm doing doesn't work. We just wake up every morning and we keep trying to do the same thing again. So we have to understand what is happening in our minds. Why are we continuously in this craving cycle? This perpetual cycle of just wanting more and more every day. So all of this starts with this void. It all starts with this emptiness inside of us. And this emptiness, this void, in some degree that we all have, feels so real. So we have to understand, where does this void come from? Where does this emptiness come from? There's a person called Maslow who came up with a list of things that he said were needs for human beings. All human beings have a basic list of things that they all need. And he put it together in a structure that's called Maslow's hierarchy. And what he says is that at the very basic level, we all have certain needs as human beings. So at the first level of Maslow's hierarchy, he says that we need physiological needs: food, water, warmth, some sort of rest, so that our body can, all the things that our body needs sustenance and it needs to rest. So that's our very basic need. If we get our basic need met, then there's the next level, which is the safety need. So this is in Maslow's hierarchy, the next thing that humans need. We need security. We need to feel safe. We need to feel secure. We need shelter. We need somewhere that we can close our eyes and feel like there is no external threat that's going to come and get us. And you notice that these things are true of even animals. These are very basic animal needs inside all of us. Once we get food, once we get the needs of our body, once we get a bit of safety, security, then the needs increase. Then we need social belonging. The next level of Maslow's hierarchy is social belonging. Once you get food and safety, then you also want to have some family. You also want to have people around you. You want to have relationships with other people, friends, families, children. You want to have a sense of belonging, a sense of community. So that's the third level, social belonging. Once you get those, Maslow says you need esteem. Nobody's really happy with just food and warmth and shelter and security and a family. We're always looking for something more, aren't we? So Maslow says the next level that we need is esteem. We need to feel important. We need to feel like we're worthy, that there's some meaning in our life. So that's where we want to have a feeling of accomplishment, because our mind gets bored very easily. So we said we need to do something with our time. Now that we have our basic needs met, we need to do something with our time. The final level he calls self-actualization. When you have a job, when you have good money coming in, when you have all the safety, security, the family, then you need to achieve your highest potential. Because you reach a point where even your job and your money is not enough. Then you say, now I need something even more. I need to feel like, what is my meaning and purpose in life? So this is, according to a person called Maslow, something that all humans need. Now, we have to think about this thing, whether these are actual needs or in reality what these are desires. Guru doesn't call these things needs. Guru calls these things desires. And the Guru has demonstrated that these are things that we want, not things that we need. Now let's think about that, because we need a little bit of time to process that. Where there is, at the very basic animal level, the need for food, the need for warmth, for water to drink, where does that need come from? What is behind that need? At the surface of that need is something that we all have built into our DNA, which is the need to survive. We all want to survive. We all think that that is a basic need. So within all living beings is an impulse, this instinct for survival, and that's survival of me, the individual, not survival of our species. Nobody thinks, as long as the human species are alive, my body is not important. Everyone thinks I'm important, my own body, my own survival is important. Even if others don't survive, I need to survive. That's all built into our DNA, into our biology. So, we might think that we're very evolved beings. We might think that humans have evolved so highly. But actually, when we break things down, we actually realize that we're quite animalistic. There's a lot of animalistic instincts inside of us. And in some ways, we have evolved. If you think about human beings as one species on planet Earth compared to all the other species, we have evolved. Our capacity to think, our ability to think, our awareness of ourselves, our awareness of our surroundings, our understanding of ourselves is far superior than any other beings. You don't see monkeys and giraffes sitting there contemplating the meaning of life. It's only these monkeys that are doing that. So our brains have evolved so high. But as our brains have evolved, as our thoughts have evolved so much, so has our desires evolved. Our desires have increased as well. So this is why Maslow's talking about these basic levels. Most animals are happy with food, with water, with warmth, with a bit of shelter. They're happy with that. As long as they wake up every morning and there's no lion trying to eat them, and there's enough food and water around, they're happy. They're not looking for anything else. But because our minds have progressed so much, now our minds are looking for more. None of us are happy with just survival, are we? We're looking for more. We think, well, now what do I do with my time? Maybe I should do something more interesting. Then I need an interesting job. Then I need money. Then I need a fancy house. Who's happy with their house? Everyone's looking at, the neighbors have bought a bigger car. They've got this, they've got that. So we're always chasing after something. And what we do is we haven't realized that we're constantly chasing after something. And whenever you're chasing after something, what you're saying is, I don't have it right now. Right now, I'm missing something. And this means that we are causing our own dukh. We are causing our own suffering every day. Because in reality, just like any other animal, we should be happy with just being alive. As long as there's a bit of food and there's a bit of shelter, we should be happy with that, but we're not. So our minds are creating our own suffering. We are responsible for our own dukh. And every morning we wake up and we try and satisfy this dukh. And where does this dukh live? Where does this suffering live? It exists in the mind. It exists as a voice inside your head. The voice inside your head doesn't just look when it opens the fridge and see there's a bit of food there, I'll eat. The voice inside your head says, I'm not really happy with what's in the fridge. Maybe I'll do something. Maybe I'll order a pizza. So there's already food here, but your mind is saying, let's do something else. Or I'm not happy with this place. I went there last time, they didn't have good service, or the food wasn't very good. I'm going to go to the next place. So do you see how our mind has a voice that's constantly telling us what to do? Now, one of the things that is unique to human beings is that we have the ability to override this voice in our head. There is a voice in your head that tells you to do things, but because we are human beings and we are more evolved than other animals, we have the ability not to listen to that voice in our head. And the saints have demonstrated this. They've demonstrated this ability to not constantly be chasing after something that the mind is always asking for. In fact, the saints have gone so far as to say that I have transcended birth and death. The saints are saying that, this need for survival, I don't even have that need for survival. Then we can look at our great history, look at the great shaheeds of our history. What does it mean to be a shaheed? It means that I am willing to die voluntarily. Yeah? These people voluntarily said, not a problem. When Guru Gobind Singh Ji asked for 5 heads, he didn't select 5 people. 5 people volunteered, and they didn't know what they were getting themselves into. They said, I volunteer. What that means is they have demonstrated that the need that society tells you that you need food, you need to survive, the Gursikhs have shown that isn't a need, that's a want, and we can transcend that. This can be overwritten. Now that might sound a little bit strange. Why would you want to override this very deep animal instinct to survive? Why would you want to do it? Now the question isn't really about why you would want to do it. The question is, most of us don't even know that that's an option. Most of us don't know that that's an option, so we never try. The Gurus, the Bhagats, the Gursikhs have demonstrated, they've shown us, they've lived it, that we don't need these things. We can override that need. But most of us don't know this. And because we don't know this, we never try. We don't know it's an option. So we spend every morning just listening to the voice in our head. We spend every morning waking up and just doing all the things that the voice in our head tells us to do. And that voice in your head is constantly leaving you in a state of dukh, that you're not quite complete yet. You will be complete when you finish your education. You'll be complete when you get a good job. If you get a good job, you'll be complete when you get a better job. When you get a really good job, then you're not happy because you got loads of money sitting in the bank. Now what do I do with all this money? You got to buy something. So you got to buy a really nice house. And then you have to get married. But you don't have a normal wedding, you have to have a really big wedding so everybody knows you're getting married. And then you have to have your children, and then your children have to have nice fancy clothes. All of this is just a voice in your head that's constantly feeding you information. Do this next, do this next. And we don't know that we have the option not to listen to that voice. This is what Gurbani is starting to talk about. So the mind is always telling you to do something, and you're always left with this feeling that something more is waiting for me. Something is about to happen that's going to be really good. Now, the reality is that the more you earn, the more things you buy, the more material success you get in life, does not mean the more happy you become. Now think about this. When we're little children, what is the first thing that we're told? about buying happiness. We say money can't buy happiness. Money can't buy you happiness. But when we grow up, we spend our whole life chasing after money so we can buy happiness. But we know it's not true. We know that the more money we earn isn't going to give us happiness. We know that the richest people on the planet aren't the happiest people on the planet. They're just as depressed as everyone else. In fact, they're probably more depressed than everyone else because they spent their whole life earning money to buy all the things that their mind was telling them. Now they have all those things, now they don't know how to get any more happiness. They've got nothing left to buy. What else can you buy? You can't buy happiness. So they're even more depressed because now they know, I have all the money in the world, I have all the possessions in the world, and I still don't know where happiness is. So are we willing to go down that path, or should we learn early on that that isn't the way? Guruji tells us that constantly chasing after material things isn't the source of happiness. In fact, it is the source of sadness, of suffering. Guruji says, "Vin tud horje mangana, sir dukhan ke dukh." If I'm not asking for this oneness, if I'm not asking for this spiritual way of living, if I'm asking for anything else, you're getting a guarantee from the Guru, sir dukhan ke dukh. You're guaranteeing yourself suffering. If I ask for anything else except you, I'm guaranteed suffering. So what are we chasing every day? We're chasing guaranteed dukh, if we believe what the Guru is telling us. Something to think about, isn't it? So what are we doing every day? We're constantly trying to fill this emptiness inside of us, and we don't really know why. So we're convinced that we need things in life. We're convinced that there is something out there waiting for us. There's some happiness waiting for us. But these aren't real things. You know, it's like if you imagine a cat in an empty room, just sitting there all day getting bored. And then 1 minute, like a little feather floats into the room. What happens to the cat? All excited. It's just a boring old feather. But because he's been sitting there bored all day, that feather is the most important thing. That becomes an obsession. This is what we do. Until we know about certain things, we're happy. When we're little children, we don't know about the big desires that are out there in the world. So children are happy with small things. As they grow up into adults and they learn about all the things that can possibly entertain them, then they start desiring bigger and bigger and bigger things. You know, my children are watching TV, and when the adverts are coming on, they're saying, "Dad, can you buy that one?" I say, "Yes." Then the next advert comes, "Dad, can you buy that one as well?" I say, "Yes." Every advert that's coming on, they say, "I want that one as well." I say, "Yeah, don't worry, we can buy that one as well." But it's a very interesting thing to observe. There's no toy that they're sitting there and saying, "You don't need to buy me that one." They say, "I want that one, I want that one, I want that one, I want that one." So from a very young age, there's a feeling that I need more. And you know what? Sometimes they weren't pointing at toys that they already have. And I'm saying, "But you got one of those in your room." You say, but that one's got wings, and that one's got a sticker, and that one's got Batman and all these sort of things. It's pretty much the same thing. I'm trying to say, look, you have one of these. Yeah, but look at that, that's a bit different. So from a very young age, we as human beings are just constantly not satisfied with what we have. We're constantly ingrained within us this idea that what you have is not enough. And so this is what desire is. This is what it comes from. There's this impulse inside of us that says, go out there and just get as much as possible. So these are what Guru has called the five thieves. And so far we've talked about desire, because desire is the root of at least the first three of the five thieves. So these five thieves are not independent from each other. Kaam is not that different to Krodh. Krodh is not that different to Lobh. So desire and anger and greed and attachment, and in fact, these things are all linked. In fact, these things are a series. They're interconnected, they're related. We can say that the Panch Chor The five thieves are a sequential psychological process that we all go through. And I'd like to share that. When you want something, there is an impulse inside you that says, I want. So already you're saying that I don't have emptiness inside me. When you keep wanting something more and more and more and more, and you can't have it and it's not coming, what is the next feeling when you've wanted something for so long and you can't have it? That leads to anger, frustration. Why is it not coming? You only have to order something online on Amazon or eBay and it doesn't get delivered on time. See how you feel. 2 days, 3 days, 1 week late. Then you email them and you say, why is it not being delivered? They said, oh, sorry, we've run out of stock. What is that feeling inside you straight away? Frustration, anger. So what started as desire, as excitement, I'm getting it, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. And then it's not coming, that leads to krodh. So calm leads to krodh. Desire leads to anger. Frustration, imagine now that thing that you've ordered is still not coming, still not coming, still not coming. Then there's one left in stock. The person emails you, says, we got one in stock. That leads to the next level, which is lobh, greed. That means that if you're walking in the store and 10 of you want to buy that one product, the thought that happens in your mind that says, I want it more than anybody else, I should have it, and the 9 other people, they might not get it, but I should get it. Calm, desire, leads to anger and frustration. Frustration leads to greed. If you're frustrated about something for long enough, eventually you'll want it so badly, regardless of the needs of other people. So calm just means desire. Lobh means to desire something regardless of anybody else. I want it more than somebody else. That's greed. And let's say you get it. Let's say you have it. What is the next step? Then it's more. Then it's attachment. You now create an attachment that this is part of me now, this is mine, I've got it. You might even show all your friends, I've got it before anyone else. You only have to order the latest smartphone, iPhone, whatever it is, Samsung, before anybody else. And then as soon as the phone rings, you're so proudly taking it out, look, I've got the latest model. Yeah, put your ringtone on the louder settings so everybody knows you've got the latest one. Yeah, that's now you've created an attachment, because what that attachment means is this product is somehow linked to me. Me and this product are now part of the same team. Me and this thing, attachment. And attachment leads to this is now part of my identity. Who are you? Oh, I'm that guy with that latest phone model. That becomes your hankar. Calm leads to krodh. Desire leads to frustration and anger. That leads to greed, which leads to attachment, which leads to a sense of self-identity. This is who I am. You say, have you met that person? Oh, which person? Oh, you know, the one with the latest phone. Your identity gets attached to these other objects. So do you see how the panch chor are all linked? There's a process there. I am the one who owns this. That becomes your hankar. And we've been doing this from the first day that we were born. And then one day you grow up and you say that I'm going on a spiritual quest to find out, where does my ego come from? Where does my hankar come from? I want to get rid of this hankar. But you haven't understood that all of these things have created your hankar. We've been adding to our hankar every day. If you've heard the analogy that I've used before of the bricks and how your identity and the ego gets built, these are all the bricks. These are all the things that we add, and this is our identity in the end. And all of a sudden we don't know, where did this identity come from? This is where it comes from. It comes from our daily actions, our daily thought processes. Now a really important question is, let's say we have these. Okay, I have desire, I have anger, I have greed, I have all these things. But why are they called thieves? Why aren't they just called thoughts? Why are they called thieves, chor? What are they stealing? A thief steals something from you. Guru Amar Das Ji has a shabad on Ang 600 that says, इस देही अंदर पंच चोर वसे काम क्रोध लोभ मोह अहंकारा. In this body there are 5 thieves: desire, anger, greed, attachment and pride. अमृत लूटे मन मुख नहीं बूझे, कोई न सुने पुकारा. Amrit lute, they're stealing your amrit. And that's not talking about just the amritaris. Inside every single one of us is an amrit. And these things are stealing your amrit. But manamukh nahi buje, us, the mind-facing people, the ones who are constantly listening to that voice in our head, that's what manmukh means, the one who's facing the mind. We're listening to the voice in our head. Manmukh nahi buje. We don't know this, we don't understand. And then we're crying out in pain and suffering. Where's all my dukh come from? I feel so unfulfilled. And nobody's listening to our dukh because we're all struggling with the same dukh. Koi na sune pukara. Nobody's listening to our dukh. The reason is because we don't know about this dukh. We don't know where this dukh comes from. But the key thing here is Guruji has explained what they are stealing. They are stealing your amrit. There is some divine essence inside all of us. And more importantly, being humans, being evolved, being the people who have a much better ability to think and understand than any other animals, we have the ability to know our amrit inside us. We have the ability to taste that amrit. So what is this amrit? And how do we get it back from the 5 thieves? Guruji, as well as talking about the 5 thieves, have talked about 5 other things. Panch guna. And the way that you can start to overcome your panch chor is that you have to start understanding that we can replace the 5 thieves with 5 virtues. What are the 5 virtues? Sat, charity. Santokh, contentment. Daya, compassion. Taram, divine living. Sach, truthfulness. 5 good qualities: charity, contentment, compassion, taram, the right way to live, and truthfulness. There's a lovely story of Guru Nanak Dev Ji when he was a young boy, and in the family that he belongs to, he is now coming of age. He's becoming a young man. And part of the coming of age ceremony within his family's tradition is that he has to have a janau, a sacred thread put on him. And on the day, think about the day. Maybe all the family have gone, it's a special occasion, they've maybe dressed up nicely, maybe they've invited their close relatives or the people in their village, and so today my boy is getting his janau put on him. So on that day, Guruji sits there and he asks the head priest, he says, can you tell me what this is? What is this string? What does it do for me? And the priest says, this is a very important string. It makes you a holy person. It makes you a godly, religious, good person. It means that you're following your dharam properly. And Guru's thinking, how can a string make me a holy person? How can a string make me a better person? And Guru asks a very important question, how come people who are wearing this string are still corrupt? Why are people who've got this string, why are they still corrupt? And then Guru asks more questions. What happens if this string breaks? It's only a piece of string. The priest says, oh, don't worry, we'll go to the market, we'll buy you another one. And this is now where Guruji is making it very clear that he's not happy with these answers. What do you mean? This is supposed to be some sort of magic string that makes a person change their character, makes them a good person. And you're telling me if it breaks, you'll just buy another one from the shop? And when I die, will this string go with me? And the priest says, no, it won't go with me. By this time, the Guru is convinced. The Guru says, I don't need this type of string. And there's a Shabad in Guru Granth Sahib Ji, Slok, which is by the first Guru, by Guru Nanak Dev Ji, where he talks about this. And he says to the priest that there's a different type of string that I want you to put on me. He says, make compassion the cotton, contentment the thread, self-restraint the knot, and truth the twist, the way that you twist the actual thread. This is the sacred thread of life. If you have it, then go ahead and put that string on me. This string won't break, it can't be stained, it can't get dirty, it can't be burnt, and it can't get lost. Blessed are those beings, says Nanak, who wears such a thread around their neck. So here Guruji is saying that if I'm going to wear a string, I'm going to wear it of those 5 good qualities: charity, contentment, truthful living. This is the string that I want to put on me. So what Guru at a very early age identifies is that there is another way of living. We don't need to be blinded by whatever society tells us. If society tells us to do lots of things, which is what we're all doing, we don't have to do that. Guruji says there's another way to live. And that is to take these 5 virtues, make these 5 virtues the most important things in our life. Panch Gun. And what is even more interesting is the Panch Chor can directly be linked to the Panch Gun. The 5 thieves are linked to the 5 virtues. The first of the 5 thieves is desire. And the first of the 5 gun is charity. Think about it. The first chore is to want something, but you can transform that want into giving. So if you wake up every morning and you think, what are all the things that I want in my life? That's causing us suffering. Change that, convert that into what are all the things that I can give away today? And it doesn't mean you start emptying out your house and emptying your shelves and giving all your things away. It means, how can I live in a giving way? So you start your morning not by what can I get from the world, but what do I have that I can give to the world? How can I live in such a way that my day is about giving rather than taking? So you can convert your desire into charity, into giving. Your calm can become sat, becoming sati, being someone who's giving. Krodh is constantly being agitated. The second of the Panch Gun is Santok, being settled, not being agitated. Convert your agitation into Santok, into being peaceful, content. Lobh is to be greedy, which means I'm thinking about myself all the time. My interest is more important than anybody else's interest. And the third of the gun is compassion. That means my interest is no longer the most important thing, your interest is more important. Convert your greed into being compassionate, into being greedy to help others, being greedy to give to others. Empathy, daya. More is attachment, which is that I own all these things. Taram is detachment, that I don't own anything. Everything belongs to the universe. Non-ownership. This should become your lifestyle. This is what taram means. Hankar means I am holding on to my temporary identity. This body is temporary, this mind is temporary, all the things that I own are temporary. Hankar is to hold on to all these things and say, this is who I am. I am made of all these temporary things. Such means to have a permanent identity. I don't identify with my body because my body is going to be destroyed and turned into ashes one day, but there is something in me that isn't going to be destroyed. So we can convert our Panch Chor into Panch Guna, our 5 thieves into 5 virtues. But what do you do if you have one of these particular chores, these 5 thieves, affecting your life? How do we deal with those? What if one of the 5 thieves has gone out of control? So let's generally spend a bit of time looking at what we could call negative habits. And where do these habits come from? How are they formed? All of us, whether we admit it or not, have some behavioral traits that we'd like to change. All of us have things that we know, I'm not living the best version of myself. that there is something better that I can do. There are things that we'd like to improve in our lives. And so when we're trying to understand these habits, what we do is most of the time we focus on the actions. So if we say, I'm getting very angry all the time, I'm shouting at too many people, if we want to fix that problem, we're thinking about the action. I'm shouting at people too much. I need to stop that action. If you're drinking too much, what you're doing is you're saying, I need to stop the action of drinking. And this works across all sorts of things, all sorts of negative habits that we want to improve. Whether you've got issues with lust, with attachments, with ego, whether it's gambling, whether it's alcohol, whether it's drugs, it doesn't really matter. What we do is we focus on the action, but there is something before that action that we need to understand first. There are two things that we need to be aware of when we're looking at changing our habits. The first is our perception. The second is our actions. First, we have to identify our perception. Perception means the way I see things, the way I see myself, and the way I see the world. So how you think you are defines your actions. And where do our perceptions come from? Where does our self-identity and our idea of what we are comes from? It comes from all the circumstances that we've had in our life. Now imagine if you were young and your parents said to you all day, every day, you're a very clever child. How does that child grow up thinking, I'm a very clever child? If your parents said to you, you're a very stupid child, you're a very silly person, all day, every day you get that same message ingrained into you. What does that person do when they grow up? How do they think? They think, I'm a very silly person. You hear so many people say, oh, I'm very clumsy, I'm very careless. Where does that idea come from? They have a perception in their head, this is how I am. And then obviously when they do something, they say, oh, that's because I'm very careless. I am already deciding what my life is going to be like, and when certain things happen, they don't faze me because I've already decided this is who I am. This is called our perception. This is how we see ourselves, what we think we are. So how you think you are determines how you act. How you think you are decides what actions you're going to do. In fact, it decides all the actions that you're going to do. And the actions that you continue to do determines who you become. The kind of person that you become is by what you do. What you do comes from what you think you are. So everything that we do has an impact. Everything that happens in the world will then have a consequence. Because we don't just do things in the world without any consequences. Everything that we do has a consequence. And this is the real meaning of the word karam. That everything you do, every word that you say, impacts someone or something in some way. So we can call karam the rule of consequences. Everything has a reaction. Everything has an impact. So we need to understand that our self-perception is the first thing. And it'll be useful to just go through an example of that. How you think you are decides your actions. So if you continue to say to yourself, I am worthless, I am empty, I am unfulfilled, you will then perform actions to meet that emptiness, because you're already convincing yourself that I am empty. And we can do this in everything in our life. If you say to yourself, I am unhappy, if you diagnose yourself with this problem, I'm unhappy, then you will start doing actions that says, well, if I'm unhappy, then I don't need to go and please anyone else. I've already accepted there is a reality, I'm unhappy. Then you might start looking for happiness. Then you say, well, I'm drinking alcohol because it makes me happy. I've already decided that I'm unhappy, so now I'm going to go do things. I'm going to go gambling, I'm going to go stealing. I can do whatever I want because the main problem is I've already decided that I'm unhappy. So where do these things come from? Where do these habits come from? How do we get rid of these things? A habit is an action that you do again and again. A habit is a decision that you once made and then you kept making that same decision. Let's give an example. You go to work in the morning, and maybe before you leave, or maybe as soon as you get to work, the first thing you do is that you go to the coffee machine. And on the first day of your new job, somebody shows you, this is a coffee machine. You think, oh, I don't really drink coffee, so I'll give it a go. And then you go in, you press the button and you get the coffee and you think, okay, I'll do that. The second day, you don't have to make that choice. So the first day you made the choice, you had to make a decision. You had to think, do I want coffee or do I not want coffee? The second day, you maybe have to make that decision a little bit, but the decision has already been made. The third day, you try again, you go in, and by the fourth, the fifth, the sixth day, then that choice isn't being made anymore. Then, regardless of whether you need coffee or not, you go into work, you go straight to the coffee machine, you press the button and a cup of coffee comes out. This is how habits are formed. That you keep doing an action. So the first day you had to make a decision. That decision becomes easier and easier every day, and eventually you'll say to yourself, I can't start my day without my cup of coffee. And you say, what do you mean? Oh, I'm addicted to coffee. How did you get addicted to coffee? I don't know. It just happened. So we don't know how our habits get formed. Your habit is a decision that you once made that is every day being made, and that decision becomes easier and easier and easier to be made. And eventually, a habit becomes so ingrained within us, the habit can be turned into an addiction. Now, what's the difference between a habit and an addiction? A habit is something you can say no to. An addiction is something you can't say no to. Even if you wanted to say, today I'm going to stop drinking coffee, you actually can't say no anymore. This is why people get addicted to smoking, they get addicted to alcohol. That's what the word addicted means. That I want to stop, but I actually can't do it anymore. But we don't know, where did this addiction come from? The addiction came from a habit. The habit came from a thought. A decision that you made at one point. You know, that decision came from a self-perception. Because there is something inside your head that says, I'm a grown-up now, I can drink coffee. So there is a perception, grown-ups drink coffee. So the first day you have to make that decision comes from this idea, I'm a grown-up now. So let me give you another example. If you're a vegetarian, you make this idea in your head, I don't eat meat. If somebody comes to the office every day and says, here's some meat, you don't have to make that choice whether I should or shouldn't, because there's a perception that, oh, I'm the person that doesn't eat meat. Do you see how your decisions are made? Your decisions aren't made just by weighing up, should I or shouldn't I? The decisions are made by who you think you are. If you say, sorry, I'm a person that just doesn't do these things, then even though the decision is being made in front of you, the decision's already been made by your own perception. It goes that far back. So when somebody says, I don't know why I'm addicted, you have to trace it back. It goes back to a decision that you once made, and before that decision it came from a perception. Who do I think I am? And that perception can come from anywhere in our past. This is how difficult these things are. This is why these things become quite difficult to let go of. You know, they say that when a river is flowing, water takes the path of least resistance. When a river is flowing down a mountain, it finds the easiest route. This is what we do with our habits. The first day the decision is difficult to make. The second day it's a little bit easier. The third day it's a little bit easier. So that river of decision making goes down the easiest route. Then at one point you have to make a decision. Do I want it or do I not want it? which decision do you make? The easiest one. The easiest one says, I drink coffee every day, even though I think I want to stop, but it's easier to just carry on. That becomes your addiction. Your addiction is, I don't know how to say no. Even if I want to say no, for some reason it's not happening. Because your mind is working like that. It's just taking the easiest decision. So this is how our habits are formed. This is how our addictions are formed. And we need to have a better understanding of what we can do about them. So what we've done is we've made our panch chor our habits as well. If you say, I'm an angry person, I have anger issues, what you're basically saying is, I've already decided that I'm an angry person. So every time I get angry, it doesn't actually surprise me. That's who I am. But we need to understand where these things come from. There is a perception inside you. And why are they called sins? In English, we translate them as 5 sins. Because they're stealing your true nature. If you say, I'm an angry person, that's not who you really are. That's just an idea of what you think you are. If you say, I'm a mean person, that's not who you really are. That's an idea that you keep telling yourself who you are. So this is not your true identity. Your true identity is this Amrit that's inside you. This is what the Guru is talking about. Amrit lute. They're stealing this purity inside you, this essence inside you, this goodness inside you. But we've accepted our sins. We've accepted our panch chor. Chalo, what can we do? They're with us. I'm an angry person. I'm a greedy person. This is just who I am. The question is, what do we do with these impulses? Should we try to be a saint? Should we all say, from tomorrow, I'm going to stop all the bad habits. I'm going to control all of them. What are we doing? We're trying to give ourselves a new perception. I'm not a bad person anymore. I'm a good person. I'm going to be one that tries to fix all these problems. But have you ever noticed that that doesn't really work? Have you ever tried to stop and it becomes fall back? So suppressing these panch chor isn't what's needed. Just saying, I'm just going to sit on my hands after that glass of alcohol. I'm not going to do that. It doesn't really happen very, very easily. It's very easy to go back into that same decision. So your saintliness only lasts for a very short moment. Good, today I'm going to be a saintly person. Your habits kick back in. Temptation comes back in very easy. So what you realize is you haven't really got rid of your problems. You just sat on it for a couple of days. You just suppressed it. You locked it down for a few days away, and after a couple of days, that habit escaped. So your temptation to go back to what you've always known is always there. That temptation's always there. I can resist everything except temptation. This is what we do. I can resist everything, just not temptation. And this is how we are, because this is human nature. So what do we do? How do we solve this problem? How can we wash this? How can we clean ourselves of this? How do we purify ourselves? How do we break our bad habits? People say that they want to break their habits, but the reality is we don't actually want to break our habits. Because the reason we're picking up that drink is because it actually tastes quite nice. We like it. The reason we get angry at people is because it gives us a little buzz that says, I feel right, I feel good, look how clever I am. If you knew that those things weren't good for you, if you actually felt that the things that you were doing weren't good for you, and you realized this is harming me, you wouldn't do it. But because there's a part of you that says, I'm getting some pleasure out of this. So there is a pleasure in our habits. In Japji Sahib, Guruji addresses this whole problem. Guruji says, Pariye mat papa ke sang o to pe nave ke rang. Guruji says, if your mind is full of all of these habits, make a new habit. If you want to get rid of old habits, you can't just deal with those habits. Guru says, make Naam your new habit. So, we said that these habits that we think we want to get rid of, we can't get rid of because they feel good. Do something else that feels even better. So when we perform certain habits, in the body they say that we receive 4 different happy chemicals. The scientists talk about 4 happy chemicals. I think it's dopamine, endorphins, serotonin, adrenaline, these kind of chemicals. That whenever we do any action and we feel a little bit happy, what's happening is a chemical is getting released from our brain into our body. And our body is saying, I like that feeling. We get a lot of these happy chemicals when we listen to music. When we listen to music, lots of nice happy chemicals come released into our body. This is what happiness is, this feeling that feels quite nice. There's some change in our being that says it feels quite nice. So, if your habits are making you feel nice, replace them with a newer habit that feels even better. And Guru says that the best habit, the one that will feel even nicer, is the habit of meditation, of Simran, of Naam. So Guru says that when this impulse arises inside you to do something that you want to stop, then you can make Naam the response. Make Naam your habit and make Naam the response. So when the feeling comes that says, I want to do it, what we do is we just make Naam the response, and that's not enough. That's why when sometimes we ask people, we say, what do I do when I have an urge, a desire to do the wrong thing? Somebody says, Simran karo. And we said, but I tried that, doesn't work. For about 2 minutes, I say, okay, why Guru? And then temptation comes up. Doesn't work. Because you're trying too late. You're trying right at the last moment to use Naam. But that's not what we mean. What we're saying is make Naam your habit. When you wake up in the morning, start that habit off. What does Bani say is the ideal Sikh? Gur Satgur ka jo Sikh akhaye so palke ut har naam te aaye. The Sikh is somebody who gets up, the first thing they do, for no reason, they just start doing Naam. What do? We use Naam to fix our problems. That's too late. Do Naam first, and then your problems will go away. Wake up, you don't do Naam Simran because I feel stressed, I feel angry, I feel this. No. Do Naam Simran even if you feel good, even if you feel happy. But we don't do that, do we? When we feel happy, we forget. Only when we feel troubled inside do we feel like now we need to do some Naam Simran. This is why Bani also talks about Dukh Daru Sukh Rog Paya. Dukh is the medicine because at that point that's when you start remembering Naam. But if you want to overcome your habits, you have to make Naam your habit. So make Naam the choice that you have in your life every day. So when you do this as a response to your habit, there you're not suppressing your habits. We're not just saying, I have an instinct to kill this bad habit and then I'm just going to try and suppress it with Naam. We're not talking about suppressing it with Naam. We're saying that if the habit gives you happiness, there is a new habit that can give you more happiness. So start doing that on a regular basis. That becomes your normal way of living. That happiness that Naam gives you, let that be your normal happiness. And whenever this thought comes that I want to do something, then you can go to your habit of Naam. Naam is then not just a shield that you're putting up and saying, go away bad habit, I don't need you. That's not what you're doing. What you're saying is, I have a choice now. I can feel good with this temptation, which does feel good, or I can feel good with Naam, which I've already got used to. I've already got a good feeling going on inside me. I don't need that one to feel good, I've got this to feel good. But what this means, you have to make Naam Simran enjoyable. And nobody talks about making Naam Simran enjoyable. Everyone says just do Naam. Naam Simran can't be a chore. It can't feel like something like you're forced to do. It should be enjoyable. We talk about Naam being mitha, like a ras. This sweet, tasty juice inside of us. That's what Naam should feel like. And that means that you have to find a way to do Naam Simran that's enjoyable for you. There's lots of different techniques of so many different Jathebandi and stuff. Everybody's got a different way of doing Naam Simran. Find the one that works for you. Some people do Naam Simran with music. And doing Naam with music, maybe that's the one that works for you. Some people do it with no music. Some people do it out loud. Some people do it in silence. You have to find the Naam Simran that makes it enjoyable for you. That's the thing that's going to keep it going. That Naam Simran is only going to keep going inside you when it feels enjoyable, when it feels like, I want to do that. That gives me peace, that gives me sukh. So find a way to do Naam Simran where Naam Simran doesn't become a chore, but Naam becomes a way of releasing those happy chemicals inside you. Every time you should do Naam, it shouldn't feel like, oh, here we go again. I have to do that Naam Simran stuff that the Gyani keeps telling me to do. It should feel like, wow, I've got more time to do Naam Simran. And it can be done anywhere. I come from London, and working in London, I go on the underground trains, the tubes, and that's the most noisiest, crammed thing that you can imagine. In the summer, it's burning hot. There's so much noise, there's so much pollution, you can barely breathe. But I used to use that time and say, you know what, I got 1 hour with no other distractions, I got nothing else to do. I can sit down and do my Naam Simran. Because you get up in the rush of the morning and you're getting out of the house and trying to get to work. Use any opportunity that you can to do Naam Simran. And if you can't do it while you're doing other important things, have it playing in the background. Have it playing in the background of your children while they're playing in their rooms with their toys, while they're doing their homework. Have that going. What are we doing? We're creating a habit. And you'll notice some people are so blessed that they say, when we were young, my mum used to just keep doing it. And now we just grown up with that. That's just become part of our life. This is how we create Naam as a habit, as an enjoyable habit. So you have to find a way that your meditation, your Naam Simran is rewarding to you. So when this thought arrives, Naam can be a way of just dealing with that. Naam is the way that you can combat those problems. You can recognize that a thought has arrived. If you're in Naam all the time, when a temptation arrives, you can see, I have a decision being asked of me. Do I need to go that way, or can I stay here in this Naam? Can I stay in this bliss of Naam? So you can even use your dukh as a medicine. When that choice arrives inside you, you can even say thank you. And this is something that becomes quite difficult initially, but over time, as Naam Simran becomes the most important thing in your life, even if an angry thought, if a lustful thought comes inside you, you can acknowledge the thought and say thank you. Because you know what we do? When our panch chor comes, we start fighting it. If you fight your panch chor, you're going to give them more power. Have you ever noticed that? If an impulse comes inside you and you say, I'm going to stop it, I'm going to fight it, what happens when you start fighting the other person? If you show that you're ready to fight, the other person says, I'm ready to fight as well. So both of you are ready. And when two of you are ready to fight, one of you will win one day and the other day the other person will win. One day you will beat your panch chor, the other day the panch chor will beat you, because you're giving it power by saying, I'm ready to fight you. But maybe if somebody comes to fight you, if your panch chor comes to you and you sit there and you say thank you, then the panch chor doesn't know what to do with you. What do you mean thank you? I'm here for a fight. I'm expecting a struggle. And you say thank you. I'm not going to engage with you, but I'm happy that you're here. Thank you. Then it doesn't know what to do with you. Somebody's come to you for an argument and you're not willing to have that argument. What happens? That person doesn't get more and more and more angry. They get deflated. Oh, okay then. Yeah, have you ever seen that? If you're going to have an argument with someone and the other person doesn't want to have an argument, and you think, oh, you just get confused. Don't fight your panch chor. Say thank you, come in, just sit down. I'll be with you in a moment. I just got some Naam Simran to do. But that Naam Simran is never ending, so he's just sitting in the waiting room. You can keep it there. But if you open the door and say, oh, not you again, and you start fighting, then you're already giving it that power, because he's ready to fight and you're ready to fight. Don't fight your panch chor. But these things don't come easily. They come when we have a habit of doing Naam Simran. When Naam Simran is giving us so much sukh, then we don't have a reason to even fight the panch chor. The panch chor just say, oh, forget that guy. He's not worth it. He's never ready. He's never willing to fight. And this is when Bani says that the panch chor, they just run away. They don't know what to do with us. So we have to find a way to make Naam so pleasurable, so enjoyable in our life, that we can breathe it into our whole body. Our whole body is doing Naam. Not that we're just saying Naam like, oh, I shouldn't be thinking about this, I should be thinking about Naam. Okay, Waheguru, oh, and then your mind goes. Not that kind of Naam Simran. The Naam Simran that you breathe into your body. You feel that Naam. You wake up in the morning and it's just radiating out of you. It's joy, it's pure bliss, it's pure happiness. That is the Naam Simran that the Guru is trying to get us towards. And that is a new habit. Make that your habit and your old habits will fade away. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.